Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Revival of America podcast. This is Jenny. I'm the owner and the host of the Revival of America. Today we have Derek Johnson in the house, everybody. So please, here on Telegram, if you have a question for Derek Johnson, well, I'm sorry. We kind of play around with it a little bit with Derek, see how it goes. If we can get to some questions, we will, everybody. So I apologize for kind of teasing you a little bit, but we have been kind of throwing a few questions in here and there. So if we can get to that, we will, everybody. But I do apologize trying to say that, and typically that doesn't happen. But anyway, I want to welcome you guys and just say hello. I'm glad you're all here. Thank you for being here. And again, I want to always, like I say, please be careful who you listen to, who you follow, what you're putting in your mind, everybody. It's crazy out there. It's pretty brutal, but it's happening, and we've been told this is going to happen. It's a good thing to see it happen because so many of you are confused still on who to trust, who to believe, and what to listen to. I get it, but I'm telling you guys, it is happening. The people that some of them, many of you been listening to, following, reposting their stuff. It's coming to the fruition that kind of maybe back up from their stuff. I'm getting information telling me to watch out for this person, that person. So I am just really tightening it down to some of the people that I post from. Obviously, the ones that I've been told to stand back from. But really, I'm really gonna really focus on, like I always say, Donald Trump. I always focus on what he says and his movements. I really pay attention to that, and like a lot of the stuff that the White House posts over on X or the Rap Response 47, because as we know, Donald Trump, he posts a lot from his True Social. And honestly, I forget about True Social sometimes. So I'm trying to do better in that and posting more from his True Social, everybody, because at the end of the day, he is telling us it without directly coming out and telling us what's going on. So if you're wondering who to follow, if anybody, of course, our Lord above, and then Donald Trump, guys, because at the end of the day, that's the guy that's got the humor behind his comments. He's the calm guy. He does not look like he's in fear. And it's like I tell my audience, and Derek Johnson always says it. It is an operation, and when you understand the operation, until you understand the operation, you're not going to really understand why things are happening the way they're happening, why it had to be this way, and why there are sometimes some glitches in things. So again, follow Donald Trump, and he is over there posting from his True Social, and that is I think it's real Donald J Trump, and it's got the plus after it. So look for that over there on True Social. Also, to everybody, we are being listened to in over 100 countries. So if you come in late to this podcast or you want to share it with a friend or a family, please follow the podcast on the podcast hosts, which are iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Google, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Riverside, Amazon Music. Also, the social medias are Jenny Dreed Facebook, at Jenny_Dreed X, at JDreed Rumble, at JDreed True Social, at JDreed Instagram, the Revival of America right here on Telegram, the Revival of America over on YouTube. And yeah, I think that's it. So you can see I'm not too hard to find. And if you guys get a random message stating that they're pretending to be me or one of my guests, know that myself or any of my guests will not randomly reach out to you, ask if you are ready for a scare event, talk to you about any financial information, crypto, any of that. Please block and report them. Let me know so I can make sure they're not here in any of my channels. And if you want to message me with a question, or you want to get in touch with John Baxter and his staff, or Field McConnell and his books, please email me, guys, at the revival of America at yahoo.com. I'm centralizing everything because I have a day gig, and it's just easier for me to get to you guys there instead of going back and forth through all these different locations to get my messages. So again, that's the revival of America at yahoo.com. And then last but certainly not least, guys, if you have a story or a journey to tell, please feel free to submit your stories to TROA submissions at yahoo.com. I will vet them, go through them, and if I believe it's a legitimate story, because everybody, we are getting fake stories, and that just goes to show you how sad people really are. They have to give you a bullshit story to try to get on a podcast. So I am vetting them as I do many things. And if I believe it's legitimate, I'll reach out to you via email, and I will get your voice, your story heard on the show. Because remember, everybody, it's your voice, your story. It's going to help shape this new world that we're coming into. or we're stepping into as we speak. We're seeing it happen. So, and also everybody stay out of the noise, stay out of the surface level bullshit. There's a lot of that out there, the drama. Just there's so much positive. Stay out of the negative, guys. There's so much more positive happening than there is negative. So hang on to that tightly, guys, because we will have more bumpy roads. But at the end of the day, that positive is shining really bright, and it's called winning, winning, winning. So with that, guys, Derek is here. I want to welcome Derek. How are you, Derek?
Oh, I'm doing all right. That's I'm doing fine.
You're doing fine. Yeah, well, I've been seeing you come up on your Facebook. You're doing a little bit. Are you doing more lives lately, or is that just kind of your scheduled lives?
No, I just do one a week if I can, but I got to where I'll drop back to one to two every week, 2 weeks, something like that, but not people can't people don't need too much in their life. That's the problem that they got already, but they don't know that. So uh, that's the biggest thing is to get squared away. But
So
well,
what so what do you want to touch on today? There's a lot going on, a lot of great things going on. There's a lot of drama going on. A lot of these fake influencers and stuff being called to the table, fallen by the wayside. Your a lot of your stuff is coming to fruition, that you've basically just like you say done the blueprint for we the people to help understand and read easier of what's already been put out there, like from Donald Trump and everything. So I don't know, what do you want to touch on? I mean, we've got the Strait of Hormuz, we've got so much stuff going on. What do you want to touch on? The floor is yours, my friend.
I always have to be the jackass up front in another manner to make sure people realize that you have a voice, but your voice is ineffective right now. And here's why. In a military government, which the military government is actually the back end, it's the backside. The worst part's over, whether you believe that or not. You can believe that by knowing military laws, military orders, military everything. And it's like I tell people, you can call me whatever name you want. I'm not here for a popularity contest, and I'm also not just a blueprint writer. Now, I didn't serve as long as everybody out there criticizes. Well, guess what? The ones criticizing didn't serve at all, so they can sit their ass down and shut up. All right. But in military, there's an actual application of law. And that's why I think people are just struggling for some reason. And this is for the true blue, which are really red, but the true red patriots. But the old saying is true blue, right? Well, a military government is an application. It's a alternative to a constitutional government. And when that constitutional government is not functioning, which you all had, it's funny how all these jumping ship, their problem is they don't even realize what they've come through, and they don't realize that, well, you guys never said anything all these years either. You may have been that one individual, but you didn't collectively do it together. Nobody collectively stood up. This quote unquote movement that everybody thinks they're a part of, you didn't bring this on. President Trump brought it with the military. You're only allowed to say what you want to say because you have that freedom surrounding you, protected by whom? The military. So you get all these patriots out there, oh, the military's full of Masons, all this. They're so full of crap, they don't even know what they're talking about. At the end of the day, it's all about people. And what are people doing? People weren't doing anything. So it had to be a top-down operation. And all of us, not all veterans, but a lot of veterans got opportunities to come back at a different capacity. I'm not active duty, I'm not National Guard, I'm not reserve, but I got a different capacity. I do have official badge. They don't call them a badge sometimes, but I have full credentials to the Department of War. But if we did hit the fan, which I don't think crap is going to hit the fan like that, there's no reason for it to. Everything's under control. But if it did, guess who's going back? Veterans. They'd come to veterans long before they ever got to a quote unquote draft. All these people, that shows people's drama right there. They didn't read the article, just that one tiny little article. If they can't get past an article that small, they definitely not going to understand a military government, appreciate a military government, appreciate a commander-in-chief like President Trump, who's acting as Supreme Court. People, oh, we're going to have a draft. They get the draft ready. No, they're not, you morons. And I guarantee you one thing, the military, all of us veterans would go long before they get to a dang civilian who loses their gasket over the smallest little thing. We wouldn't even want you going. We're like, hold on, okay, I may be crippled, but I don't want that weasel in my place. I'll go. And see, what I get pissed off with every week is so many people out there. I'm pissed for the actual people seeking the truth, but then they keep stumbling all of these panty wasters who just are out there, I'm part of this, no, you're not. This is a military operation, which means you got to have military first. You got to have someone break that down first. And that's why so many people right now are losing, but they're following all these people, oxygen thieves. They're all for clicks, they're clickbait. They say all the right words, trigger words. They call them trigger words, target words, MAGA, you know. Yeah, where we go one, we go off. Yeah, all that. But when they click off of their screen, what are they doing? They're probably drinking a mimosa, sipping a coffee. You know what Derek Johnson's doing? I'm reading all my law books over and over, following what President Trump's doing lawfully and going back and studying when it seems like a stalemate with executive orders. I live and breathe it because I'm a part of that. I'm a small man on the totem pole. Small. But some of us got opportunities. And so your voice right now is ineffective. Not because we want you to be, has nothing to do with that. Military government outlines this. It says the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are ineffective during a military government. That's mainly because of finding out all these influencers, which a lot of you don't live with a phone in your hands. Some of you are 50 and older. You don't sit there all day with it in your hands, but some do. And some of that's because of default and where we've become. You know, you got family and kids and grandkids, and it's their lives every day. So you have to make it part of yours. And you got that little Palm Pilot right there in your hand all the time. Right there. And so they had to do it this way in another manner, but your voice ain't here yet. Your voice is not here yet. You're not here to the prevention method. We're not even out of a military government yet. The law shows this, not because I just want to keep flexing it. It's not a flex. It's an application. Military government is an application. But it's an application because all other things weren't working. And when you read the law of war manual on the parts, like when people go, well, why would President Trump, if he was still president, like that conservative ant dude who is a piece of trash? All these people are clickbait, but they have to use them because they had already blown up, and they have what they call a captured audience, a syndicated audience, meaning they'll only listen to him and probably only him. So they have to use that person to get to those people, which is unfortunate. But what are those people doing? Palm in their hand, phone in their hand, and they think that the guy hung the moon, right? So they got to go through those avenues. You saw him with Byron Donalds and some stuff like that. The whole thing's an operation, though. And it's unfortunate. And that's the undesirability clause that's in the law of war manual. When people go, well, why would they do the gas? And why is it this? And the inflation and this? Well, you never bitched about it before. You may have individually done it, but you didn't do that. It wasn't a collection of people going, we want justice. Why are you teaming up with Israel again, George Bush? Why? No one was doing that. Not collectively. You might have been individually somewhere in your way, but not collectively. People weren't. No one was pissed and mad and angry all these years. No, you were not. There wasn't a movement all these years because there wasn't. So see, all these people want to claim they're a part of something. It's okay if you want to be part of a club and you want to be feeling like, But this is an operation. And so the part of this is to take down all these people out there with these blue checks. See Palantir, that's where Palantir comes in. I've been saying this now for a while, and I said the closer we get to 2026 and the July the 4th, I said this on podcast 4 years ago. I said the closer we get, I'm going to start calling out people by names. And it ain't about me calling people out. It's just I have the law. I have the strategy. I have the blueprint. Somebody has to and somebody had to. It just happens to be me. So if these people were about you, they wouldn't keep you in an inferior position. They wouldn't keep you in a peasant position. And the way they talk to you shows you that. Because if they were about elevating you and helping you sharpen your thinking, it may sound like a little butt chewing every now and then, sure, but we all had that somehow, some way, because I'm not yelling to you, I'm yelling at you to get your attention that these people are not elevating you. They're not empowering you. They're not sharpening your skills. They're not showing you where to go get receipts. And even if, let's just say that, I've heard people say, well, what if this was all a psyop to take us the other way and Donald Trump was a part of it? Okay, well, if that was the case, guess what you ain't done? You still don't know how to fight. See, because military, we have a word called flanking. So if someone asked me, said one time, well, what if you found out one of your closest buddies or colleagues was a piece of trash? I said, well, and they named a particular person. I said, well, screw him. I know how to flank. You don't. See, so people are not empowering themselves. They're still stuck in this piranhaville where they're just sitting there. You're watching all the moving lips and all the moving mouths and all the flapping gums. And guess what they're all doing? It's the same topic. It's a different face and a different spin on the same bullcrap. Nobody cares what you think about Israel. You're not in the command. Nobody cares what you think about anything else because you're not in command. But every bit of what President Trump is doing as a wartime president, everything, every airstrike, every military operation, is an executive order with a national emergency from Obama, George Bush, or Jimmy Carter. It's that simple. So you either show your allegiance, you're either on board or you're not. But see, you can't be on board if you don't know what the board is. You can't be on board. And people questioning the commander. Some of them don't realize they're questioning, but it's because they don't even know what they're supposed to know. There was another big podcaster today. Oh, the president should stop using social media as much as he does. He should stop posting and start doing this. He said to use start, not keep. That's very keen. Well, first off, here's the man who revolutionized using social media for government. He's the man. That's no one utilized social media like Donald John Trump as Donald J. Trump, even before he was president. Now, as president, wartime commander, he's used social media. But then you can go over and you can tell this person who spun off today, they have 1,000 followers on True Social. Their last post was a year ago. But they got 300-something thousand on Instagram. You know why? Because Instagram's full of what? One, it's a short stack podium, meaning if you're only doing videos or even if you're posting a picture, you only have X amount of spaces for material. So it's a clickbait. It's an easy clickbait platform. You can't put any good source material on Instagram. So 300,000 there, but 1,000 on Truth, and the last post was a year ago, which shows this person can't even build a platform with President Trump's people. That's a very big sign. Now, some of them are also trash on there who have, but majority of them don't have a big following on there. And a majority of them don't even have a True Social. How can you claim to be a President Trump supporter when the man himself said specifically, join True Social. That's my platform. I will be posting there. He rarely posts on X. It's a captured operation. The blue check Palantir is a captured operation. They're seeing all these people. And I've been saying this for 4 years now. And I've been putting quotations around influencers. And what did Dan Scavino just post this past week? Everybody saw it that saw it. They're calling out quote unquote influencers. How can you call yourself an influencer when you don't even know the commander's operations? Those aren't secretive. But see, my strategy and blueprint is actually intellectual property, which means that every other podcaster out there has to do what? They have to go study the laws and the orders, but they have to tell it another kind of way, or they're plagiarizing because they didn't know. See, and that's the danger in information, is these people who never knew, but they sort of act like they know, but what are they doing it for? Intent and motive, so the clicks. And then they start trying to sell some kind of stuff. So you find out quick who is in the operation, who isn't. This whole thing is about getting the power back to you. And you hold your phone in your hand, majority of you, not all of you, 8 hours a day. The data shows this, statistics show. So how are we such a nation who has a phone in their hand 24/7, but can't even look up certain things? Like the Bible. You can get on AI now and type in, give me all the scriptures related to Israel. There they are. So people apparently don't even know how to use the simple method on the new Google and the new platform, or they go over and read, oh, I probably shouldn't say that about Israel because Zechariah 12 verse 3 is pretty straightforward, unless you're a Church of Christ or Catholic or one of them who don't believe in Jesus Christ the right way, and they don't believe in the Old Testament. So we're finding out what the Bible actually is all about right now. And you see President Trump, when he posted the photo of him in the Jesus Christ robe, he's calling out all the Catholics because they worship the Pope more than they worship Jesus Christ, which is blasphemous. All right. And then all these other quote unquote religions out there. Our founders were Judeo-Christian and Christian values. And even the atheists back then were okay with that. So they're calling out the Vatican in another kind of way, and the crown, because they were all attached together. So if you knew the strategy of President Trump, and what they're doing is a fundamental reset. Every aspect of life is going to have a fundamental reset. And they're fundamentally bringing everything back down to where it goes to your household. Why is everybody in everybody else's business? Why is everybody so quick to react on posts out there? Nobody gives a damn what you think. Not from that angle. So see, and then it goes back to the states.
Hey,
People are
Derek,
like,
real quick regarding Trump's post that he took down. Also, too, he's I think exposing the Red Cross as well. Don't you? I think that's that's resurfacing. What are your thoughts on that?
well, the whole thing is a fundamental reset. The whole thing, meaning,
Correct.
I mean, every facet of what people have got to get back to accountability of their own lives first. That's why when, like, I always use gay people as an example. I've had people come to all my events all over the country, gay, Buddhist, you name it. How are gay Buddhists President Trump supporters if President Trump is homophobic and all these other things? He's not. Because all it takes is one gay person, not even a couple. All it takes is one gay person to debunk that. Only one. You don't need 2, 10, 50. You just need one. Because if they can make a case while they love him, then that's all you need. But it still goes back to that gay person who's a President Trump supporter or Buddhist, whatever, not the run-of-the-mill, what people think of the America, the traditional American. Those people are going to their households, living their lives and minding their own freaking business. And see, so many people have gotten so caught up, but just almost a norm, and it really is become a norm, and it shouldn't be, on social media. That's not where you make your voice heard. Those posts have a short shelf life. And as much as these influencers out there post, that's why I show people my Facebook's one, I've never been monetized, but I can't monetize even if I wanted to because they didn't allow it. But I can show what monetization looks like. And you can see on mine when I go in, I've shown the screenshots, whether people believe it or not, that's their problem. another problem people have. But is they don't understand what transparency means. President Trump's on TV every single day, every day, right? That's transparency. You never saw that with Obama. You didn't see that with Bush. You didn't see it with any of them. So see, they don't appreciate what they're watching because they don't know to appreciate it. They can't even see the line in the sand because they're so busy being negative. They're so busy being critical. Everything that President Trump does, they always go to the criticism part. They never find the good. They haven't gone to the pages and seen all the things he's accomplished. They haven't looked around and go, wait, there's not a Clinton around. It's not any of those people around. Janet Reno, all these people. Where'd they all go? Where do all these people go? And they're not looking at the law because they don't know the law. But if they looked at the law, there's not a single thing. There's not one single thing. Now, repeat that. There's not one single thing that's been in law via a law, legislation, or an order from 2017, January the 20th, 2017, that wasn't a defense mode by what people thought was quote unquote Joe and the Joe Biden administration. Every single thing that people are seeing and hearing is an offense that President Trump's done. So when you see people like X22, I'm calling out Dave now. He's putting up, oh, the deep state's doing it. The deep state ain't doing nothing. These people are nothing but civilian panty wasters. Sorry, ladies. You just have to call it that. These people are all, I'm just saying, they're not official. Well, now, in the future, this is what I think is going to happen, because President Trump's already alluding to this in another manner, and I'm not getting ahead of him, but just giving people an example. What's going to have to happen in the future to not be sedition is the president and future presidents will have a list. Here's all my official news networks. Here's who to listen to. Here's who not to listen to. Kind of like making a team where you had, if everybody who's over 40, you remember those times, especially males, you had to go to a list somewhere and roll down that list and see if your name was on it. Now, that wasn't a good feeling if you wasn't on there, but back then, that's when your daddy and your mama taught you to work harder. You didn't cry about it. You didn't go home like a little whipped pup. No, you had a dad that says, all right, guess what? We're going to work harder then. You're going to get better. And they push you to be a better skilled athlete to make that team. Not give the little buddy well, buddy, it's okay. Here's your trophy too. Right? You don't humiliate. You don't do that. So they're going to have that list. Who is actually privy to the president's information? Because all these people out on social media saying, oh, they're not privy to anything. And especially during a military government. Now, like I said, the only way you're going to appreciate a military government is to know what a military government is. And then you got to know the laws that outline that. And there's not a single law right now that I can't show you that, well, I'm like, here you go. This is it. This is where martial law would have been invoked. President Trump, January the 27th, 2025, he said, I've signed a record number 350 executive orders. It's only 58 from January the 20th to 27th. It's only 58. Where's the others? Where are they? So see, that's in a presidential emergency action document. So what did you have back then? I went on a podcast way back. These dudes had never heard of a presidential emergency action document. Someone managed to get me on their podcast. What happened? After I unveiled a military operation, military government, this, and this, I'm the veteran sitting there. None of them are. Next thing you know, they're taking that as if it was their information, as if they discovered it, and they have millions of followers. So see, person hears that the wrong way. They go, oh, you're just jealous. I'm not jealous. I'm showing you that when you have people whose intent and motives are for clicks and for popularity, but yet if we really did have a hit the fan moment, guess who's going back? Me, not them. Now, I would want to go back. There's not a part of me that would go, oh, I don't want to go, like some of these sissies do out there. But, the people who signed up and didn't want to sign up, But we have to address that because that's what's going on. It's called the shakedown right now. And people are finding out who is and who ain't and who never was. And that's what Dan Scavino just addressed, who's President Trump's right-hand guy, one of them. And then also President Trump called out the Panikins and all the others. So you, ladies and gentlemen, have that authority and that power. You have it in your hand right now. Those who are unfollowing my pages are fools. Because
I second that. I second that. If you're unfollowing Derek, that's crazy.
Well, here's the thing. My attitude reflects my heart, and my heart reflects the operation. And when I can absolutely prove by law what's going on, and then I can show, well, I am a veteran, I am retired, whether you believe that or not, I can prove that. But it's not, see, a lot of people want me to prove all these other things. I'm like, you want me to stop what I'm doing just to prove some little small thing that has no hill, bean, or difference. But I also have a official broadcasting and other kind of badges. And I have another opportunity that we haven't even disclosed, but that'll come down the road when the appropriate time. But see, all I have to do is play the weight game because it's not about me. But in that field, when people make it about me, all I have to do is play the weight game because I already know what's happening lawfully. There's things I already know that can't talk about, but that's also part of being retired and also knowing what can and can't be said lawfully. Nothing to do with playing a game with people, but the attitude reflects that. And this attitude is when I see all these people who have never been in the military, but they're just wanting clicks. And when I know for a fact, when they get done, when they close their phone or the computer, whatever it is, they're not reading and studying anything. Not one word. When you see me post not one word from one sentence, from one paragraph of one law, that's a fact. None of these people are. So somebody has to be that James Stewart of the Mr. Smith Goes to Washington in the real world, in the real life, because, again, every single brother and sister in arms that I fought with, but also served with, and all the other people out there who've served, those people, some of them are still in, and they can't talk. By integrity purposes, they can't. That's not their role in the duty in the military when you're active, guard, and reserve. You're not supposed to be going around correcting people. That's not your job. You're supposed to do what you're doing on service and on duty. So then look at all the memorial graves out there who can't talk anymore. This is carrying their legacy. This is carrying it forward. We all served under the same Title 10, Title 32, even though the oath it reads the same. It's no different. So when one little thing can prove the whole thing. See, veterans in the house know this. Every veteran knows this. And if they don't, that exposes their intent and motives as well. Now, they could still be a good person. But I had a guy come up to me in Dallas, Texas a few years ago, and he said, man, I'm going to tell you what. Boy, when I first heard you kicked my, you know what. He said, but when I started reading and studying all the laws that I'd had no idea that I raised my right hand to, he said, my head and my heart was in the right place when I raised my right hand. And so when I connected the application of why I was serving, he became a better soldier in his community. Well, first in his family, then his community. Because his heart was in the right place the whole time. He just didn't have the application of the law. So that's what I'm trying to get over to people is that veterans may not know what's going on right now, but if you presented it to them and said, look, well, let me tell you what. Title 10, Title 32, but then also here's this, and this. You served under that. So when you took the oath for life. You didn't take it for a time period. And if you did, it shows that you did it for privileges, meaning the benefits, college, dental, medical, etc. Like I told all these combat veterans out there, they brag about their combat. But, oh, we're in another war. Put down your combat badge then. Turn in all your stuff, then talk. Because you can't brag about deployment and combats and then turn around and trash the commander who's dealing with the trash from the past. None of these are President Trump's orders. None of them. None of them. But then this is what proves it. So a few years ago, this is why I tell people, this is why, you know, that old saying and what we need to reinstill in the humanity, which we are. Remember the old saying, the golden rule. Remember the golden rule. And then there was another saying that said, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Well, my improvisation of that or rewriting would be, if you have nothing productive to say, you can shut the you-know-what up. Because I might be able to put you in a corner in the wrong kind of way and humiliate you, all those people who I served 20-something years and da. Well, if you did serve 20-something years and you don't know what I know, it's going to be uglier and worse for you. And my grandpa instilled that years ago, even with guitar. He said, don't go around bragging about playing guitar. If someone asks you to play guitar in the room, don't be the first to say, yep, let me have it. Always deny it. Always say, nah, I don't think so. I don't. He said, you know why? Because there's always the quiet one in the room that someone else knows can play that guitar, and he'll play the fire out of it and embarrass the heck out of you if you're a bragger. And so there's one thing, big key thing that was so hilarious 2 and 3 years ago when everybody thought, quote unquote, Joe was president, that some veterans were doing, coming over and trashing and trolling my pages. And then they had their full name. They weren't hiding their names and faces like some of them do. And we screenshot them. I got you, Scott. I know a Scott in Arkansas. I got you, Scott. I got you, right? Now that President Trump's back in and people saw the California movement and the Marine Corps and all that, it's visual then. People, well, there's a Title 10 in place. Well, how were the National Guard deploying to, everywhere? Really, you don't even have to name a place. How were the National Guard deploying overseas from 21 to 25? How? There had to be a Title 10 because that's an active duty. When you take a National Guard out of the state element and you put them overseas, they're going active duty. Even though they're still National Guard, but they're going on active duty. That's a Title 10 order. So how were they on active duty? Who federalized them? Because I can show you right now, only 2 places there's a Title 10 attached to quote unquote Joe's name, but it was an additional troops to the border. Not overseas, not anywhere. It was just an addition, which means it was a continuation of a foundational order. So where was the foundational invocation? Oh, President Trump, February the 5th, 2019, Proclamation 9844, Title 10, Section 12302, and Executive Order 13912, March 27, 2020, Title 10, Section 12302. There's only 2 that would apply to the border situation. So how were the National Guard and Reserve components deploying anywhere and everywhere from 21 to 25 when quote-unquote Joe does not have a single freaking Title 10 invocation? That one thing solves it all. It squashes everybody else out there. Until they can answer that, and the only way to answer it would be the alternative. What's the alternative? Well, that's what the DASH stands for. It's an irregular, unconventional warfare strategy that one of my grandfathers served under, one of the most popular puppet governments in world history at that time. So see, if people would realize that the whole thing's an operation, I mean, the 45-47, the whole thing, the whole visual, every aspect, every scene that happens under it, when President Trump calls out the Pope, when President Trump posts something about Easter, and then the same day he drops the F-bomb on a post, and all the Christians are going, oh, my God, he was praising him this morning. Now he's saying the F-word, right? I'm like, he's showing you to be in your own lane, in your element. Whatever you believe in, great. But just because someone believes something different, don't mean you got to be holier than thou. Right? So there's so many things. What they're doing is showing you that he's a commander. He can say what he wants, how he wants, when he wants. He can drop this. He can drop that. He's showing he's a military commander. He's not a president in a normal presidency. And so many patriots are treating this like, oh, Congress did this. Congress ain't doing nothing. They're under a partial continuity of government. If you would understand what that is, and then understand what a military government is, you'd realize that the whole thing is an operation. And it's humorous at this point. And the timeline is so keen and it's so perfect how everything, like the partial continuity government, the last full 24-hour day of a presidency, quote unquote, Joe is partially revoking the invocation of continuity government. Couldn't do it on the first day of his quote unquote presidency. Couldn't do that. Couldn't even sign in at the same right time. Couldn't do all these things. Didn't have a 21-gun salute. None of this. So he waits to the last 24-hour day of a presidency to revoke a portion, which is a partial, of a continuity government. Not the whole thing. So when you look at all the timeline of what I show people, it shows that people who even follow me, they're either follow me because it's like, I don't know, maybe they're waiting to see, oh, there's Obama in handcuffs. Oh, Derek Johnson was right. Oh, they did. Right? Or they're just thinking it's just like another page that comes. Everything that I have in the blueprint shows everything. And there's a part 3. I mean, I'm writing on part 3 now because of 25 to 29, but I'm the one that has the full blueprint. Now, President Trump would have had someone else do it too. There would have been someone out there, and there's other people who are going to be writing certain things, like probably all his proclamations and probably all his 17s and all his, capitulations, like intricacies like that. But I'm the one that has the 40,000-foot view of the whole operation, where when it's complete, you'll be able to have 1, 2, and 3 and go see the whole thing in a chronological. And then what's great about it, if I'm bragging on myself, I guess maybe I am in another way, but what's great about it is, for history's sake, for when we get 100, 200 years down the road, when we're all dead and gone, then no one will be able to say that they don't have history proof if they ever get in a bad position one day and go, well, what do we do? Well, there's a strategy here. It worked for these guys. They're going to have some negative people along the way, but I'm pretty sure we can deal with them, whatever. So, in a military operation like this, that's why the president, he ain't looking at people. When people jump ship, especially a big blue check or a red check, then they're seeing who is and who ain't, which they already knew that. But let's just say that someone was good the whole time and someone was diligent the whole time and someone could have created an opportunity for themselves. They just did what? They X'd their opportunity out because they showed their what? They showed their true colors. And you've heard the saying, zebras can't change their stripes. So that's for y'all to be watching. And like me, someone like me, you could already, women, ladies, females. I know people think, oh, he's a single guy. He just says that. Ladies, there's so many women and ladies out there of all different walks and all different beliefs who, if I was wrong about something, I'd already be canceled or fizzled out. That old saying, I'd be a fiddle fart. Because women, ladies, females, you're intuitive, you're intelligent on the front, you're not quick to judge. And when a man, male, guy, dude says, fact check this, y'all are like, I'm going to fact check it from the top to the bottom to the back to the side. You're going to take your little forensic file, little microscope thing, and you're going to be, and see, this is where males got to step to the plate, and it exposes all the males out there especially, but especially all the influencers, is because the females who have followed me, who have studied, who have read, and put it all together, they're taking that executive order where that first paragraph, very key, first paragraph has a title this in it and a title that and this act and that act. They're going and reading all that too. And then multitasking it, going, dang, it's doing this, 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 and this. And then in the bottom sections, if it lists any more codes or CFR codes, et cetera, they're going to read in those too. So see, if I was wrong about something already, I'd be done a long time ago. So see, that's another thing that people aren't looking at. So when it comes to Iran and, what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz and all these other places, this has already happened. And it's also exposing, God love all the veterans in another way. They're They're safe. But what we got to do as a veteran community is go, look, my job, I'm not sitting here beating up your service. When you raised your right hand, you were where you are in your life. You raised your right hand. You only know your intent and your motives. But we have to address the bureaucracy. We have to. Because not a single war, there may have been one conflict, maybe Lebanon or maybe Bosnia, Kosovo, Somalia. There may have been one conflict that it would have been okay to go, you know what, there's a civil war going on over there, and we need to go in there and help these people out. But when you get to Vietnam and Lyndon Johnson and that whole charade, and George Bush when he was in on the CIA side, when you get into that charade and you get into Iraq the first time, George Daddy Bush, and you get into Hussein, and then you get fast forward to when Gaddafi was standing there in front of the General Assembly, and he's like, are we not going to question what happened with Saddam Hussein? He was America's friend until they turned on him, and they killed him. Right? So he was calling a whistle in, and then he died, quote unquote, was a quote unquote assassinated shortly after that. Right? Well, Iraq the second time, Afghanistan, look how long they lasted. President Trump, if people are willing to dump President Trump just for one conflict, even if it was a real conflict that was under him, nothing to do with a Jimmy Carter executive order, let's just pretend, let's just play devil's advocate. Let's be hypothetical. You can't because it's not, but let's just do it. Let's just say that President Trump, found this conflict and he started a conflict with Iran. If you're willing to dump him after all the other stuff that's been accomplished, you're not much of a person. You're not a decent human at all, period. Because it would show how selfish you are. It would show selfish, ignorance, and everything. Because you're willing to dump all the other accomplishments just because you hadn't seen it yet. The other thing is the economy is not a quick fix anywhere. The economy is one of those things that every other president that you've lived under, it never looked the way it was supposed to anyway. Every president would get in the first 2 years, and they'd butcher and twist everything that was done before them. And then the last 2 years, it never could set foot because the next president was going to do what? Change it again. So see, the economy is not something the president can brag on except for President Trump. Because when we get done with this and we move out of the military government back into a constitutional government down the road, the people that President Trump's putting into place, this whole thing is an operation to where it's going to last at least 50, 60 years before we would ever have a generation who could fundamentally change everything again. Which means every nomination that President Trump's put into place, you got to go look at the atomic midwife. It's the same playbook that President Eisenhower, 5-star general, who veterans, by the way, 5-star general, rare, 5-star general, never saw combat, master strategist. He was a winner. That's why. He didn't start stupid wars. He didn't start man-made wars. All right. So all that military-industrial complex came after him. All these veterans who brag about foreign wars, they don't even know the word foreign put in the oath was in 1862. Had nothing to do with going overseas. If you ain't fighting more for your nation here, but you're willing to fight somewhere else more for them, you're not much of a veteran in my opinion. And you can hate me all you want. That's fine. If you ain't willing to fight more here, what are you? So President Trump takes President Eisenhower's playbook, the atomic midwife, and it proves, one, quote unquote, Joe didn't have a single Title 10 or 32, none of them. So there's so much that proves that it's an all military government, continuity government, government exile, puppet government, shadow government, hybrid. They use the elements of both, shadow and puppet, called hybrid warfare. But the atomic midwife is where President Trump, every one of his ambassador nominations, every one of them, they're either a businessman or woman, highly successful businessman or woman, and or, meaning they're either a super successful businessman or woman, or they're a special operations, Navy SEAL, some regular veterans, but highly in the special operations, or they're both. Meaning that they're someone who was in special operations who went out in the field and became a successful business person, man or woman. One of the last ones he nominated was a female, lieutenant colonel. So You know, it's the playbook. Then what validates that is your National Guard. First time in U.S. history, the National Guard cybersecurity teams have been at the polls 2018, 2020, 22, and 2024. Well, there's a line in the sand for the normies out there, the target audience. 2018 and 2020 would be President Trump. 2022 and 24 would be quote unquote Joe. Why would quote unquote Joe have the National Guard cybersecurity teams out there under Executive Order 13848, election interference with the national emergency by President Trump? That wouldn't make much sense unless Joe's part of it. President Trump's already alluded to this, by the way. Now, Joe wasn't real, but President Trump just a week ago in his press conference, he said, yeah, I've been talking to a few presidents, and they all wish that they'd have done what I'm doing with Iran. I've been saying this. I'm on record saying this 4 years ago. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. The one who can unify the world is Obama. Now, he could still be a piece of you-know-what, but if the true goal is unity, then everybody can learn a slap on the wrist. He could still get punished, but he could still come out and say, well, you know, I cooperated and da-da-da-da-da. There's a lot of ways special operations can work. But see, people don't recognize special operations because they don't know what that is. But when someone's willing to trash a veteran over something they don't know about, hey, all I got to do is be the bull on the hill and wait, because it's all coming out daily. If it were about me, it's not, but if it were. So it shows people don't know the playbook of the commander. And it's straight out of the military government booklet. And none of President Trump's speeches, none of them, have anything federal related. Because even the executive order, it's still the executive branch. Excuse me. So that's one of the key elements of, I'm losing my voice.
You have some water there?
Yeah, I got some water here. So it's one of the key elements of the military, one of the key elements of the military way it pairs with federal. There's only 4 ways. And so people, I know more than likely most everybody in the chat room here are patriots, but I always talk for people who are new, because when you're a patriot, you're already one per se, right? So we got to go out to the people who still are fearful. And some people, unfortunately, God love them, have even tried to take their life, or maybe even did, because they're fearful. But it's because they haven't seen someone like me who can go, well, it may not make complete sense yet, but you're going to have to read everything I've ever read and studied and applied, but also worked in. And that's the only way it's going to make sense. But people who are waiting on arrest, just to wait on arrest, well, you're going to see stuff. You're going to see that. You're going to see justice, but you could have already been doing your part, because your effective voice is going to be preventing the swamp from growing back. That's when your voice is going to be effective. It's not ineffective right now from a personal standpoint, but it is when it comes to questioning President Trump right now is not what you're supposed to be doing. Because if you knew the dash and the imagery is an operation, and you keep hearing this guy just keeps saying this over and over and over. He says the same stuff a lot. Well, when you go read it and study it, and then there's visual and verbal validations, how are there visual, verbal validations daily moving forward? How? When I have like 4 years worth of the visuals, heavy visuals. How? So see, it shows exactly that's your validation. And like I said, there's that, and then there's women. Because again, women patriots have truly been the biggest patriots of all, the whole movement of the whole thing, because women read, women study, women don't like, let's just be honest, bull crappers. Women don't like that. You like men who are men. You like men who are standing on 2 feet, right? Stand there. And President Trump is this way. I've heard his best friend say this. He's like, President Trump don't care if you get in the ring and get your head knocked off. He loves the fact that you got in the ring and were willing to fight. So sometimes it ain't about winning sometimes. It depends on what it is. who it is, what it is. But there's going to be a winner in every fight, but it may be a draw, or it may be, well, winner by decision. And the scorecard may have been like, oh, this guy got one more punch in. It wasn't that the one guy beat the other dude up. So many people don't even see that. And so like Iran and all these other things, this stuff's already been, that is exposing the swamp. Look at all those years of wars. Look at all those years of all the men and women who did die. They didn't die in vain. They died up under liars. They died up under bureaucracy. And so in reality, whether you're a veteran or not, you should be fighting more for their legacy and wanting to get rid of that and prevent this, because the military government, President Trump, they've drained the swamp. That's gone. The next step is prevention, is setting up all the right people to prevent that from happening. The laws have been fundamentally changed. The executive branch has been fundamentally changed. This is all outlined. Every bit. I have this all in the books already and on my pages, but this is fundamentally happening. Right now, you're going through the judicial branch. That's why it's judge, 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 court, 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 judge, 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 court, court, court. All the laws are fundamentally changing. But you should want to fight more for the soldiers who lost their lives under bureaucracy bullcrap, because they didn't die in vain. They did serve during a time period they thought was service, their heart, serving their state, their family, their nation. But you should want to fight more for that than anything, because President Trump, in 38 days, we've taken out the whole Navy, the Air Force, the nuclear, the ground force, and everything. So all this Strait of Hormuz, and of course the blockade, and closer to Oman, you know, all this is just the theater portions. It's already been done. But 38 days, look at all the influencers who jump ship because they have no idea what's going on lawfully. None. And we've taken out the place who chanted death to Israel and death to Iran, death to America for 47 years. We've taken out that nation's, their whole military, every aspect of it. In 38 days, it's gone. Now, if you want to believe that's real time, you can go right on ahead, but it ain't. But if you want to, it still doesn't matter. 38 days. And look how long we were in Iraq. Look how long we were in Afghanistan. Look how long we were in Vietnam. Look at it. So it shows you that when the military is unleashed, and we do have to go in somewhere in the future, if that ever has to happen, naturally, you let the military go in and do what we got to do. That's what you do. And see, it also shows that too. And all you parents out there, stop saying this nonsense bullcrap about sending your child to fight a war. When your child goes and signs up for the United States military, they become an adult. All right? You stand behind them no matter what, because they made a decision. Whether they didn't make that decision for the right reasons, it don't matter. They'll find out quick. Guess what? You adapt to the military. It don't adapt to you. And you find out quick you ain't getting out of the service, so you better shape up quick. So see, those things. When you hear people like Carrie Prejean Bowler, that bimbo, right? She didn't have a voice before all this. She wasn't nobody. No one knew her. And all of a sudden, she's blown up on X. Why? Because it's what? X is a captured operation, right? You use trigger words. If you were a former President Trump, ride his coattail like her, she got 2 posts on True Social. There's another one, 2 posts, just 2. Couldn't build an audience there because she's dumber. She's dumber than scooping soup with a toothpick, all right? And she's got her photo up, her background photo, leaning up on the women for Trump. She ain't even smart enough to go in and delete her photo. She ain't even smart enough to go in there and delete her profile. And she's over here now, oh, not my president, and this, that, and the other, and saying any president against the Pope is blah, 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 blah. Putting the Pope over Jesus Christ. Sorry, Catholics, y'all do it. And Catholic don't even have anything to do with God and Jesus. It's a more of a pagan word than anything. So You know, you don't like it, well, you'll get over it. So see, this person, she going, oh, and now she's blowing up all over it. And see, those people, I'm like, you got kicked off a prayer team. You know how bad that is? You get removed from a prayer team? Boy. But look at the people who flock to that. Now, that's still a captured operation. X is the whole case. That's what Palantir's for. You saw President Trump validate that. There's another validation. He validated Palantir, talking about the Palantir's working great with our military. And it shows people don't read. People freaked out about Palantir a few months back. No, it was last year. Right? Oh, they're taking our data. They got our information. You didn't read the article? It said they're compiling data from existing contracts. They already had your information. Right? So it shows people don't read. And we got to get back to that now. They're going to, President Trump said any school that doesn't teach our history and our foundation, they'll be defunded. But they're also going to have to put back in terminology. Like if you want to go out in the street and talk your slang and ghetto and white boy stuff, whatever, you know, like the white boys who wanted to be in the ghetto, you want to do that? Great. But when you get in the schoolhouse and when you get in courtroom or you get anywhere else, guess what? It's going to be keen terms.
So, Derek,
you don't learn the term and all that.
Real quickly, when do you think that's going to happen for our schools? Because we know they've been teaching our kids just bullshit, right? When do you think that's going to happen for our kiddos, the real truth of our history?
Well, you got to have the operation has to be done. So see that's for people, maybe not people listening again in this particular section right now, but this is where people are struggling. Well, when's this going to happen? The 45-47 is the operation. The law, not Derek, not Rattletrap, not Derek Johnson, not Butthole, and he's a butthole, whatever you want to call me, name it. Not that. I don't say it. The law says it. The law shows we're in a military government. We're in a partial continuity government. When we go back to a full constitutional government, that will be via an executive order, revocation. But that's also where President Trump and them are going to unveil this to people. This is not an operation where it's just going to roll through and then, it just gets better through time. No, his whole legacy, his whole imagery, taking on this, coming out of a billionaire lifestyle, playing golf every day, flying wherever you want to all day, every day, wherever you want to go. He didn't leave that to put a dash on his ball cap to not show people and unveil this to people. So see, we still have some stuff to go through, which it's April, half of April now. His birthday's June the 14th. He'll be 80, big year. And then July the 4th. And so, people still have to wait a little bit, but it's all, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, I might know a few things, but I can't say it if I did. But there will be a revelation of that. That is his legacy. So it's going to be all these things like Iran, all these, they'll be solved, all that. So that's already solved. But to the people, it'll be a moment where there's going to be something that's very clear. And like I keep saying, probably the emergency alert. I mean, that's why we got all these little satellites on the radar when you look at them. When you see all these quasi-peak deflectors and detectors and all these other things out there. I mean, there was a tester down in one of the islands the other day, and it was on radar real fast. Boop, it was off that quick. And it was the U.S. And all these satellites are straight up for emergency alerts. So they might use it. I don't know. I'm just doing a highly educated speculation of what they got to get everybody on board on one time. Whether people accept it or not, it's a big different story. But I think it's going to be, we all think, the colonels and everybody thinks it's going to be like a 70-30, 80-20 at the best. But I mean, if you look at history where people are, because people have to accept it on their own. You just can't force people. But when you look at history of a president who what people think is in his second term, he's not, but for the people that think that, 51% is a big number in history. And you think 51, to 49, that's not big. But when you think of 70 and 80% of population being fully aware of what has been taking place and what has taken place and what, has been cleaned out, that's a massive number. And it's the old 80-20 rule. So the law is going to have to reflect that. And we're nowhere near that. But that'll be a resolution, and it'll be a verbal. Congress and the president or President Trump, I don't think it's going to be President Trump alone, because he can't exonerate himself. He would never be able to get the left. He could cure cancer, and they're going to find a way to bring cancer back. All right. But now we're talking about the lower level. We're not talking about, that's why it ticks me off, these big podcasters out there talking about the deep state. Who are they? Schumer? Schiff? James Comey ain't even posted on his X account in over a year. Why not? If he's free to roam, why can't he stir crap up?
Because he's captured.
And so people see Obama, but I'm like, you don't know that. You're not there. But they're showing people that they're getting all the biggies out of the way. And then also, just because no one can do anything about it anyway, but just because I've had messages, when are you people going to get finished with your game theory and all this other stuff? People are suffering. People have always suffered. What did you do for it? Cupcake? Sweetheart? Boo-boo? What'd you do for it? Not a thing. And you're not going to do a thing about it. So you will do what? You'll shut up and sit down, because this is a military operation. So when President Trump, it's not that he don't care about people. He loves people. He cares about people. But this whole thing it's a life lesson for people that, yes, you can make a difference if you all are on the same page. You got to be on the same page. And he calls this out all the time. He says, it's always the Republicans arguing with each other. Liberals look like idiots, but they're all idiots together. They're all equal idiots, right? I don't think I really want to be an equal idiot, but you can make a better point for them that they're all on the same page. Republicans are fight round earth, flat earth, moon, no moon, flat moon, round moon, this moon, dark moon, moon's got a hole in it, blah, blah, blah. They're just, and see, a lot of this stuff is just testers to see where people are. A lot of it, to see what they'll nibble on. But let me show you a funny thing. If this was Obama running a mission like this, an operation, you know how many Derek Johnsons there would be? A bunch of them. Because liberals would be the first to be like, it's the law. It says it right here, you freaking heathens. There would be so many Derek Johnsons, it would be a flip. It would be a true flip if it was their people doing it. So what they're doing is they're making people come to accountability on their own. You get the choice at the end of the day. What you decide to believe, read, react, etc. Accountability. But they're still going to clean it out, still going to be that, and then they present it. But the way you do that is you use the emergency alert, in my honest opinion. If I was going to have one big gamble where we were all taking a bet, and I say, okay, well, my one big gamble is going to be this. I bet they're going to use the emergency alert, because we're in the world of AI. We're in the world of social media. And now you got influencers who are creating AI of President Trump doing this and doing that. Some of it's real fake, you can tell, but there's some people out there that thinks it's real. So in the world of that, President Trump's already alluded to this. He just posted about this not too long ago, about a week and a half ago, where he said that AI was not intended for the use that it's been used. So they put it out there in society, and what does society do with it? What did all these basement sloths do with it? They start making fun things, and they make fun of the president, or they trash the first lady, etc. So see, look at where we are in society. Look at the adults out there. Well, they're not adults, but look at the age brackets. You'd think a 14-year-old child's doing it, or a 15-year-old or 16. No, it's 40 and 50 and 60-year-old people making stupid stuff up and trashing the first lady, and you name it. We're talking about people who are supposed to be adults. And look at what they're spending their time on. So see, they used AI as a tester out there in another way, because, again, we can't have social media influencers at the rate of where we are in the population saying what they want, because we would never get out of that hole. So you do what? You run a captured operation. That's why Elon acquired Twitter, named it X. X marks the spot. All right. And it's Palantir, Space Force, and then your Army and the Navy transferred all communications to the Space Force in 22 and 23. I thought, quote unquote, Joe was supposed to be president. What's the Army and the Navy doing transferring all communications to the Space Force? You know, Joe Biden, quote unquote, Joe, he never said the word Space Force out of his mouth. He never had any kind of order or anything with the Space Force. Wonder why. Oh, that's right, because President Trump established that December the 20th, 2019. So when you know all those things, and then the Army transfer the Joint Tactical Ground Missile Warning System to the Space Force, very, very key. All right, all the stuff you've been seeing in the Middle East, that's a key role in that. The Golden Dome, the air missile defense missile systems, that was my MOS in the Army. So, I mean, that's why I'm pretty much an expert in some of this stuff, because guess what is the most heaviest topic in the Middle East? Golden Dome, air missile defense. So there's a reason why some of us are here. So emergency alert would do what? Everybody's phones. No, now you could turn your phone off. You could put it down. You could walk outside and you could, but your neighbors, if you live in a subdivision, your neighbors, they're not going to panic in their own way. They're just going to be like, hey, is your phone, can you access Tetris? No, I can't get there, and then TVs, internet, wherever, anything's got an interface on it. You ain't going to be able to access it. All you're going to see is whoever's on the screen telling you, like, hey, Derek Johnson was, no, I ain't going to say that, but you should have listened to Derek Johnson, right? But it's by fun having some comedy in there, but that's what an emergency alert would do. It'd bring everybody on the same page. And then they put who they want to put in front of you. And that's where I tell people, don't be surprised if it's someone like Obama. No matter how bad you think they were or are, and they still could be. Just President Trump says all roads lead to Obama for a reason. It's not, you can't, let me just show you this real fast, real quick, I promise. Obama, all of your past from 2008 back wasn't Obama's problem. Obama it wasn't George Bush, wasn't Clinton, Epstein, name them. You just name anybody. That ain't Obama's problem. So why do all roads lead to Obama? Well, if you went up to a liberal on the street right now, Democrat or liberal, side, you get two options, one choice. Just for fun, just play the game, right? So you say Obama or Clinton. That's a no-brainer. Every liberal, if they had a chance to dump Hillary or Bill, gone. They going with Obama every time. You know why? Because they think he's a great speaker. They think he's a great father. They think he's a great husband. It don't matter what you think. And the ultimate goal is, in the end, is unification. So in special operations, trash talking, distractions, all these things are part of it. Because you still got to get people in a position to go, what? You have a responsibility and you have an accountability. And look at where we are today. We have 50, 60-year-olds in their basement making memes and all kinds of stupid stuff that don't matter at the end of the day, just for a click. Just because they want to go check, she's good. She's good looking. She laughed at that. Let me message her. I know how these guys operate. I know a lot of them. I know how they operate. I know I've seen some of these guys. I've heard them in their, what they call locker room talk. Ladies and gentlemen, we hear these people. I've been to events. You think special operations ain't operating all the time? This is why I tell people, if you're a good person on the front and you know what you're supposed to know on the front, you'll never know when someone's around you. Because special operations and secret military can blend in like nobody's business. And you will never know who's around you at all times. So see, when you're in that bracket, you can go in any environment, anywhere, blend in and get what you need to get. And that's why when you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, but see, it goes back to, if you have integrity, you just know you have it. And if you know you're a good person, you just know you have it and you know who you are. You don't have to walk around saying that. You don't have to walk around advertising that. You just are who you are. right? And you're doing that all the time, just like you people in the real world. You don't get a reward for being a good person every day. You don't get a reward for going through a four-way stop the correct way. You don't get a reward for all these things. You're just expected to do that, right? So why do we have to have an operation like this? Because there's so many people out there who use all the right words for you. Those are the worst ones. The liberals at least show their colors. They they show their opposite, but it's the ones who they always look like you, talk like you, act like you, but ain't you behind closed doors. And that's why I tell people, even with me, the way you know that I'm consistent and transparent, well, one, I'm transparent, but the way you know, one, I'm a full name. It's my biological name. You can look me up. You ain't gonna find much. My background check don't have a whole lot, but you can. You can get you a Ben verified account for $1 a week, and you can run me. My name's out there. All right. And then you can choose whether you believe me or not as far as like the badge and all this other stuff, because I'm not showing my badge ID number right now because it's no one's business right now, because of the people on the flip side of it. They don't need a bunch of phone calls and a bunch of things like that clogging up the system going, is Derek Johnson real and authentic? You know, you don't need that right now. We're in a military operation. But I have a full name, full face. I've been a full face and full name for the whole time. But the other way you find out is go read and study the laws, what I've given. All I do is show you all of President Trump's laws and orders. So that's how you know. And then when you're reading that, you're like, well, like the people out there, Derek Johnson's mafia. He's in the mafia. He's a this. If I was any of the bad, anything bad, I would be a disappointment to them because I'm showing the full blueprint of how so it'd be hypothetical. It'd be like how I'm showing how my people's being taken out. You know how stupid that is? Like, you know how disappointed that those people would be if I was one of them and they're like, hey, why are you showing a full blueprint of how they're coming after us? I mean, this is how crazy it is. So the only way you're going to know is to get plugged into what the commander's using. And when you get plugged into the commander, well, there's only one person who does that. And I know that I go on a show monthly, a military panel, and they're always wanting more military on there. I'm like, I'm sorry. You don't need just more military just because some people want an opportunity and they're not reading and studying the laws, even military. So sometimes more is not good if the more in their intent is to lead you down their path, not the path. So you're going to have someone that's a butthole, it seems like sometimes, just because. That's why President Trump and I are so much alike. And I say that on my behalf, looking up to him, is because our gematria numbers, simple and Hebrew, are the same. This is why we talk a lot. There's so many commonalities that you can't argue. And that's the divine. That's God. That's something out of my control, his control, everybody. That's divinity. So you're going to see the law go back to a constitutional government, but we're not there right now. And then there's got to be a revelation of that. Now, will you see Charlie Kirk and all these people, whoever you thought's real and ain't, and this and this and that? I think people are too much in the fantasy world there too. There's a reason why certain people have been taken out. There's a reason. And, I'm showing people what a true military looks like is that it's a rank system and it's a know where you need to know basis. But you still got to be that military personnel, military mindset to be able to know exactly what President Trump's doing, because nothing he is using is federal anything except for what pairs with a military government. And that's your executive orders, proclamations, and your treaties. Other than that, President Trump has not used anything federally outside of your economy. But if you look at all his economical moves, they all tie into the powers under a national emergency. The tariffs, restricting telecommunications, but the tariffs are a big thing. Every bit, those were put into place January 23rd, 2018, which was a year and 3 days into his whole visual. So that's how long they've been in place. So nothing's been predominantly federal. It's been all military the whole time. I'll shut up for a question or whatever you were going to ask.
Oh, no, you're good, Derek. No, I was gonna ask, so okay, I was just looking, something just came through my feed. Are you hearing anything about this big typhoon coming in through the mainland? Well, not the mainland, but over there by Guam. Are you hearing anything about it? It's like a
Uh,
huge. I was just looking at it online. It just literally, I just heard about it right now.
well, my thing would be is what, unless there's someone in Guam or the Northern Mariana Islands or Japan or anywhere over there, like that's, uh, it
It's
don't,
it's
it don't affect the U.S. if it was real. And then also, uh, I mean, there's a
well, it
lot of things
says.
that people use for you know, distraction pieces.
Well, no,
But
yeah, no, I agree with all that. I think it's in the distraction, but it just came across Guam remains under storm readiness. So it's a Sinlaku
well,
typhoon.
yeah, but if anybody who's been stationed in Korea and all those areas know that it's monsoons and those type of weather elements are just part of that. So it's not a.
No big
I
deal.
know people.
Okay.
Well, I know people hear the word typhoon is kind of like a plane crashing. It's like, well, they don't look at how many planes are in the sky daily. They hear the one crash, and then people. It's like like the lottery winner. People, they don't look at all the ones who played the lottery. Um, so, but
Okay, yeah. So here, sorry about that, guys. I do have a couple questions for you here on Rumble because we are streaming through Rumble. And Derek, once I get this whole camera situation figured out, I mean, I could bring you over here on Rumble and just have you show your face. I mean, I'll be live with you, but my camera situation's a little bit janky right now, so I can do that maybe the next time you come on and stream you live through Rumble if you want to do that. But here's a couple questions. Where the dumb? Okay, where do the dumbs fit in all of this, if that matters? Okay, that's from Brad to a OHP. Where do the dumbs fit into all of this, if that matters?
well, or people hear dumb, so it's a deep underground military base. Uh, well, I'm so glad that they basically saving Iran for last too, because Iran's been a thing it's been heavily known in the military, active duty, especially active duty, but depending on what your MOS ism was, it was especially known in my MOS that we couldn't talk about it for a long time, and I still don't talk about it completely. But I mean, we've been knowing about these underground bases in Iran for years. This is why people look atrocious. And I'm not talking about the guy asked the question. I'm talking about the people out there who are looking like they're, it's like that President Trump just dreamed something up. It's not the case at all. And I can tell you right now that what they had would make a hair on a turtle shell stand up. Um, and so, some people can't understand humor. There's no hair on a turtle shell. So there you go. But, so if people will go look under President Trump, so under President Trump, there was a Defense Intelligence Agency put out a publication with Iran. And matter of fact, there's an actual page. If you go to Google and just type in defense strategies with Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea, uh, it'll pull up the page with all of them, and you can find those PDF booklets for that. But if you go in the specific one for uh, Iran, you'll find it talks about the deep underground military bases, and it talks about the underground facilities. And it mentions even in North Korea. I mean, we're talking about, I think one of them's mentioned 9,000 miles of tunnels. 9,000 miles. Most people can't even
Wow.
comprehend 9,000 miles because, well, if 9,000 miles would be like from Alabama to, uh, probably India or somewhere like that. I mean, it's hard to comprehend that, and that'd be a straight shot. But people can't comprehend that. Now, that's not straight miles. Obviously, that's squiggles and ups and downs and 2-story, 3-story, 4-story, etc. But still, just apply that. And so That's not a conspiracy theory. I'm so sick of these people out there. Now, look, the jokes for the conspiracy theorists being right, that's true. But the people out there who really think that that is a conspiracy theory, when this is straight up military, this is not, oh, maybe moon and, oh, is the moon real? Is it flat? All that can be whatever. There's an answer to it, but I don't have that. Or I might, but it's not my wheelhouse. But what's in my wheelhouse is the military that is absolute facts. Now, people don't have to like it, but then again, well, you weren't there when they were building them, so they were there. Most certainly there. And not just in Iran, we're talking about all over. This is why the Iran situation is so easy. Way back in 2017 and 2018, the Army, not the Marine Corps. I love you, Devil Dogs, but not you. Right? The Army allocated the money to train 26 of 31 combat brigades for underground facilities. President Donald John Trump is the first president, the first to implement a strategy for the underground tunnels called subterranean warfare. He's the first. So the Army allocates this money way back in 2017. Then you have the mainstream media, which it wasn't really mainstream. It's military.com and some of our platforms that veterans know about started talking about it, that the Army was spending $572 million training our combat brigades. And it says specifically that our next wars will be in mega cities, not inside them, but beneath them, which is subterranean, underground. Well, then you fast forward to 2019, you have that I just mentioned, the Defense Intelligence Agency putting that out. And then also you had the Canadian Defense Department, Canadian manuals, publications, matching a paper by a female officer at a war college. She wrote this paper in May 2019, and there it shows the Israel Gaza cross-border operations. So see, there was that way back there. None of these liberals, rhinos, and never Trumpers were yelling back there, oh, no war with Israel. They had no idea what our war colleges were teaching. This has been planned a long time, and it's a full plan. It's not going to prolong after this. When President Trump, they're wiping it out. This is why people look dumb with all this Israel talk. But great, show your colors. That's what we need to see. So that article, then 2019, Canadian Defense, in there they put, we support U.S. and Israel. And it specifically said Gaza, Egypt, cross-border operations, Hamas, $572 million. So you have all your timestamps, all your money stamps. And then President Trump, you got to go back to President Trump. He always says, we're not paying for it anymore. Somebody else will. And he started hammering pharmaceutical companies straight out the gate. Well, what are the odds that the same 2019 year, same time period that the Defense Intelligence puts out this publication for Iran with the tunnels and the domes in it, what's this odds that in the state of Oklahoma, the first state in the union, every single county went red for President Trump, which is why he brags about the 87% of counties went in his favor. So 13% went towards the blue, which is a big deal. It shows the Electoral College and the power of that. But state of Oklahoma, there was a court case between Johnson & Johnson and the state. So guess who was forced to pay? Johnson & Johnson was forced to pay, guess what? Drum roll, $572 million. That's a random number to pull out the hat. When the same month, the Defense Intelligence Agency is putting up an article, a publication of Iran and the underground facilities, and then these numbers match the Army and the allocations for the underground subterranean warfare. See, so it's all tied in. And so when you get to October the 7th, 2023, when they had to show this, they had to do this because people don't love facts. People love drama. They showed all this music festival got attacked and all this other stuff. And that music festival is what struck the war off in Israel. Now, that's how dumb people are. You have to say that. Not you patriots, but the people who will believe stuff like that. Right? From October the 7th to October the 14th, in 1 week, ladies and gentlemen, Russia, Ukraine, Argentina, Colombia, Thailand, Japan, New Zealand, Australia, Bulgaria, Romania, Algeria, Nigeria, Tunisia, Sweden, Finland, Germany, United Kingdom, Belgium, United States. All these nations were in Israel in 1 week's time. Russia and Ukraine? I thought they're supposed to be fighting a war. They could break to go, hey, Israel needs our help. Let's put down our arms. All those nations in 1 week were in Israel from October the 7th to the 14th. And then a couple weeks later, the New York Times, who President Trump hammers, but shows they're on their captivity, so wartime code. In 1 week's time, what did the mainstream media start saying about Israel? The war has now moved to the tunnels. They couldn't broadcast anymore. This shows people's attention span. It shows people's love for drama and not for military, because it's not about facts anymore. It is and it ain't. It's not about facts and truth. It's about, do you really appreciate the military or you don't? Because the military is made up of all walks, all nationalities, all ethnicities, all religions, all kinds of things, all kinds. So it's a true test of what people are putting their trust into, and their trust is not really in anything that's substance. So, that is all part of the operation, but it's President Trump. Now, we had tunnel rats in the 70s. They call them tunnel rats, men who were just willing to go down in a dark hole and see where it went, and no equipment. And it could have been a hole that was a straight fall, and then they're gone. So there's a lot of cases where, we've lost men just for being a daredevil, basically, but we didn't have an actual unit geared towards that. We just had brave men in the 70s. They call them tunnel rats. We had different elements of special operations that would explore something like that, but President Trump's the first to put an all-out strategy for that, and that's heavily where your trafficking has taken place, and storage of these big missile compounds. So you got to know where they are. And we're talking about stuff that would blend in, like stuff you see in the movies, where you see like this artificial ground that looks real, or it could be actual dirt on top of it, but there's an element that moves that around and there's a missile under there. You'd have never known it unless you did know it, unless you have detectors and things of that nature, equipment, technology like we have. So that's why so many people are looking atrocious about Iran, because if Iran was for the world, if they were for their neighbors and their world, then why would they go from 3.67 uranium enrichment from 2018 just because a piece of paper told them to? And then Elizabeth Warren and people like that, oh, if President Trump wouldn't have torn this up, they would have still been it. No, they wouldn't. A piece of paper? No, money did that to them. That $1.7 billion of Obama on cash ballots, and the other $150 billion that President Trump talks about, that the media told you was all conspiracy and all a lie way back. Yeah, that's what appeased them. That's what they built all this for. They were building this stockpile, and they were going to make it a true stockpile. They weren't going to just, oh, we got one bomb, let's detonate it. No, they were going to have a full-out blast show. And they were just appeasing America the whole time. And then the money. So why would they go from 3.67 to 60% within 2 years enrichment if they were for their neighbors or for the world? They weren't, and they're not. And Yemen, when we bombed Yemen in March to May, when all the rhinos and never-Trumpers were not yelling no war with Yemen, I'm not sending my son to Yemen. No one was saying that. Same military, same U.S. military, same aircraft, bombing Yemen a month before Operation Midnight Hammer. Yeah, none. Kerry Pre-Jean Bowler wasn't yelling, I ain't sending my son to Yemen. Well, it's the same military. It's the same aircraft, same orders, same everything. No one was yelling during that. So guess who we were bombing over there? Iranian Houthis. We're not bombing Yemen. We're not bombing them. It's the Iranian Houthis that infiltrated these nations. They were trying to overtake the Middle East. See, and this just shows that people truly don't know what an evil person looks like. They would literally have their grandmother could come in their living room and looking like a grandma and it be a wolf in sheep's clothing. And that's why you got to have keen skill sets that can pick up on that. When President Trump and all these different people are in these meetings with these leaders, you can tell who is and who isn't in the real settings. It's real easy to find. But
Thank you, Derek. All right, everybody. Derek is here every other Monday. So, Derek, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
well, I'll be in New York during that time period, but I should be able to. I think I'll be able to maybe be in my hotel or wherever I am. So.
Okay. What are you doing in New York? New York? Can you share? Why don't you share when you get back? How about that, if you can?
Well, it's an event that I'll be in New York for it's called the Awakening Summit on April 25th and 26th. But you have to. I don't have anything to do with the tickets. So if you're gonna complain about ticket costs, it ain't my setting, and don't go to me. It don't. I don't make any money on that. So, but it is a ticket cost. But people got to realize that these people put up people in hotels and the travel and all that good stuff, and so it's in Lynbrook, New York, which is Long Island, but it's all on. I think it's called Party Events, something like that. But it's like, but you spell it PARTEA, partyevents.com or something like that. But anyway, you could see it on my Telegram if people search for Awakening Summit. But
If you guys are in the area, go check them out, you guys. And yeah, that'll be cool to hear what that is all about. So yeah, come back. You'll be coming back that Monday. That's my birthday week. So I'll see you on the 27th.
oh, so it's the 27th. Yeah, so it'll be the day after. So I should be. Yeah, I'll
If
probably be traveling. Is what I'll be doing.
Well,
That's it.
if you can't because of travel, I understand. Just let me know. We can, you know, your spot's always here. So, with that, everybody, come back tomorrow. We're gonna have Rick Anson with Brain IQ Health on tomorrow, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then Wednesday we're gonna have Alpha Warrior. We'll have Troy for Everything XRP, and then we will have Jason from 3D Response Systems, the security system. We need to get in all these schools to protect our children. So. With that, Derek, it's great talking to you once again. Keep up the great work, my friend, because you're really killing it out there. Well, you have been killing it, but everything that you've been putting together is coming to fruition. So, congratulations on that. And to everyone that is still in the movement and hasn't jumped ship like all these other fakesters, give yourself a pat on the back and congratulations. And we'll talk to you guys and see you soon. Thank you, Derek. God bless you, and God bless everybody here. Have a great night.
See y'all.
Thanks, Derek.